Welcome to our discussion on cultural differences in communication. It's great to explore how cultures influence the way we connect with each other. Understanding cultural differences can help us avoid misunderstandings and foster better relationships.
Absolutely. For instance, some cultures value direct communication, while others rely on subtle cues and context.
Exactly. For example, in Western cultures, being direct is often seen as honest, while in Asian cultures, it might be perceived as rude.
That's true. I've noticed that in some Middle Eastern cultures, expressing emotions openly is more accepted than in others.
And don't forget about body language. What might be a friendly gesture in one culture could be offensive in another.
Like eye contact, for instance. It's seen as confidence in Western countries, but it can be considered disrespectful in some Asian societies.
Humor is another area where cultural differences are quite pronounced. Some jokes just don't translate well across cultures.
True. In some cultures, humor is more self-deprecating, while in others it focuses on wordplay or sarcasm.
Yes, and even the context of when humor is appropriate varies widely. Formal settings in some cultures might not allow humor at all.
That reminds me of greetings. The way people greet each other varies significantly. Handshakes, bows, or even cheek kisses.
True, a firm handshake might be seen as professional in some countries, but as aggressive in others.
Even time management is influenced by culture. Some cultures value punctuality, while others are more flexible with time.
Yes, like in Germany, being late might be seen as disrespectful, while in Latin America, arriving a bit late can be normal.
Another example is personal space. What feels comfortable in one culture might feel intrusive in another.
That's so true. For instance, in Japan, people maintain more physical distance, while in Mediterranean cultures, closeness is common.
Let's not forget about silence. In some cultures, silence in conversation is awkward, but in others, it's a sign of respect.
Yes, like in Finland, where silence is golden, compared to the US, where it's often filled with small talk.
Even gestures can vary. A thumbs up might mean great in one culture, but it could be offensive in another.
That's right, and nodding doesn't always mean agreement, it might just mean the person is listening.
And language barriers add another layer. Even when people speak the same language, cultural expressions can differ.
For example, idioms are often tied to culture, they can be confusing for non-native speakers.
That's true. A phrase like raining cats and dogs might not make sense to someone from another culture.
Another example is the meaning of colors. In some cultures, white represents purity, while in others, it symbolizes mourning.
Or the number 4 in East Asia, which is associated with bad luck because it sounds like the word for death.
That's fascinating. Even holidays vary. Some countries celebrate New Year's Day with parties, while others prefer quiet family time.
Yes, and some holidays, like Lunar New Year, are deeply rooted in cultural traditions.
Let's not forget the role of religion in shaping communication styles. It influences values and behavior.
That's true. For instance, in some religious cultures, modesty in speech and dress is highly emphasized.
Yes, and even food customs can be a form of communication, reflecting hospitality and social bonds.
Absolutely. Sharing a meal can be a universal way to build connections, but the rituals around it differ.
For instance, in some cultures, eating with your hands is customary, while in others, utensils are always used.
And the way people offer food can show respect. In Japan, pouring someone else's drink is a polite gesture.
That's so interesting. Another example is gift giving. The type of gift and how it's presented varies by culture.
Yes, and even the way people receive gifts is different. In some places, opening a gift immediately is rude.
I've also noticed that storytelling is a powerful communication tool, but its style depends on culture.
Absolutely. In some cultures, stories are linear and straightforward, while in others, they're circular and symbolic.
Speaking of symbols, cultural symbols like flags, animals, or even flowers carry different meanings worldwide.
That's a good point. For instance, the owl symbolizes wisdom in Western cultures, but it's a bad omen in some others.
Another fascinating topic is gender roles. Communication styles can differ greatly between men and women across cultures.
Yes, and some cultures have more defined roles, while others promote equality in communication.
I agree, even age plays a role. Respect for elders is a key value in many Asian and African cultures.
That's true. In contrast, Western cultures often emphasize individualism and treat everyone equally, regardless of age.
Language formality is another example. Some languages have formal and informal forms of address based on relationships.
Yes, like tu and vous in French or du and sei in German. It's important to know which one to use.
Absolutely, misusing these forms can unintentionally offend someone, especially in formal settings.
Speaking of offense, taboos are another area to be mindful of. What's acceptable in one culture might be taboo in another.
Yes, like discussing politics or religion, in some cultures, it's a normal topic, but in others, it's avoided.
And even humor about sensitive topics can be risky. It's better to err on the side of caution.
You're right, being aware of cultural differences shows respect and helps build trust in communication.
And it's a skill that can benefit us both personally and professionally, especially in today's globalized world.
It also encourages empathy. When we understand cultural perspectives, we're more likely to empathize with others.
Empathy is indeed key. It allows us to navigate cultural differences without judgment.
And it fosters open-mindedness. Embracing diversity makes us more adaptable and resilient.
I agree. Learning about cultural differences is not just educational, but also enriching.
Yes, it broadens our horizons and helps us see the world through a more inclusive lens.
That's why discussions like this are so important. They help bridge gaps and build mutual understanding.
Absolutely. Thank you, William, for sharing your insights today. It's been a meaningful conversation.
Thank you too, Emily. I've learned so much, and I'm looking forward to more discussions like this.
Same here. Let's continue exploring how we can connect better across cultures.
Definitely. Cultural awareness is the foundation of effective communication.
Thank you all for joining us today. Let's keep learning and growing together.
Goodbye. And remember, understanding each other is the first step toward global harmony.